into it. I like the jam. Stephen A., this fan says you need to be freed from being a prisoner of the moment. Listen up.
All reports of LeBron James' demise have been greatly exaggerated. Knock it off, Stephen A. First it was Steph Curry. Then he had to join forces with Kevin Durant and form a super-duper team. Now it's Kevin Durant. He's the best player in the game. Like LeBron just faded away or something. He just averaged a triple-double in the finals. He'll be back next year. Stop being a prisoner of the moment. Free Stephen A. Smith.
Well, he needs to listen before he comments, because the fact of the matter is nobody denied the reality that LeBron is the best in the game. We're dealing with the fact that at this moment he just lost the championship. What the hell am I supposed to do? Ignore it and say, wait till next June? You want me to be a typical Dallas Cowboy fan who goes 3-13 and then turn around 2 hours later and say, you know we're going to win the Super Bowl next year, right? You know we're going to do that, right? That's nonsense. It's not a prisoner of the moment. It's the reality of the moment. Golden State of the champions. LeBron James is not. Deal with that reality and live in the moment instead of accusing people of being a prisoner to it.
Free stash shirts would be a hot sell. Max, this next fan says you're tripping about Jimmy Butler being a better fit than Carmelo Anthony for the Cavs.
Carmelo is the much better fit for the Cavaliers than Jimmy Butler. If he was with LeBron as a teammate and Kyrie, to get out of here. Don't even start with it. Stephen A., you're right. Max, I'm sorry, but it's obvious Melo's firepower on offense is exactly what they needed for the postseason.
That's so wrong. But let me just be more specific because, you know, different players fit different systems and different needs of different teams. So let me just be clear about this so we don't get it confused, you know. I'm only saying that Jimmy Butler is a better fit for any team ever than Carmelo Anthony right now. This Jimmy Butler is a better fit, no matter what you need, in any NBA team than Carmelo Anthony that ever existed, because Jimmy Butler right now is a better player than Carmelo Anthony.
Max, that fan addressing you first thing in the morning. If you want to give us your take, just post a 20-second video on our Instagram or Twitter. Tag us and use the hashtag FTYourTake and keep watching daily. You might just end up on the show.
It's only one fight that I want. If I came back to entertain the fans, it's only one entertaining bout. Mayweather versus McGregor.
He needs me. I don't need him.
I said, let's make it happen. You know, I told him we can talk to your boss. Because he has a boss. I'm my own boss.
I'm looking around. I don't know what anyone else has for me around here. I might have to jump up and tag Floyd Mayweather out there and see what the he's having.
Everybody keep talking about Conor McGregor. He's blowing smoke.
If he wants to talk, we can talk. But it's me who's in control here.
We are willing to give him $15 million.
That's a pay cut to me. I don't take pay cuts. I thought boxing was where the money was at.
Bring him over to the boxing world, and I show him what it's like. Easy.
The fight is on, yes, sir. August 26th. It goes down in Las Vegas between Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. First Take will be there. These are two of the fight game's biggest villains. Stephen A., I really like this question. Who do you think the public wants to see lose more, Mayweather or McGregor?
Oh, without question, Mayweather. Without question. Number one, he's more hated than Conor McGregor. Number two, he's unblemished. Conor McGregor, we've already seen him lose to Nate Diaz, okay? So we saw that. There's no novelty in that. Number three, and more importantly, you got to remember something here. And it's, you know, it's amazing how people react. I don't sit up there and bring up race always as a negative. Sometimes, most times, I'm just highlighting the dichotomy that exists, or rather what's taking place in our society and how we can't avoid it. Floyd Money Mayweather is a African American who's probably worth over $1 billion, who flaunts and flosses unapologetically, for the most part, to promote whatever he's doing. But nevertheless, that's what he does. And by the way, never, ever, ever hesitates to tell the man, I don't have to answer to you. They have bosses. I'm my own boss. In society that we live in, where so many people, most of us, have to go to work every day and have someone we have to answer to defer to, that have dominion over us and our lives, Floyd Money Mayweather is one of the rare individuals in American history to have the luxury of not having to worry about that at all. And oh, by the way, he's filthy rich. I'll throw that in the equation again. And he's unapologetic about the authority and dominion that he has over his life. On so many occasions, as we watch things take place in our society, even with a Colin Kaepernick, what is really happening right now? It is influencers, it is the decision makers that are saying we have to exercise and maintain control. If you are a black man in America, you happen to know this and believe this to be fact. The system appears more interested in controlling us than maximizing our potential, even when it's to their benefit. You can't find a black man that won't validate and authenticate what I just said. Floyd Money Mayweather found a way to do that for himself, to be his own man, and to be answerable to no one. And a vast majority of Americans do not like that. In all likelihood, due to envy just as much as any other emotion. And because of that, that creates that maelstrom of vitriol that makes folks want to see him lose. He wasn't a knockout artist, Max, but you went to see him anyway. Why did you go see him against everybody else? Why did the pay-per-view numbers take place? Why did the man make over $800 million after not being able to knock anybody out? It's because he sold you on a personality that made you despise him to the point where you wanted to see him lose. That's what everybody's paying for. And that's the reason why they'll pay for this one. They want to see him fall.
And by the way, that's where the undefeated record also plays into that. Because as much as you want to see him lose, he never has. Raising the stakes constantly. Oh, I'd love to see him lose. You know, most people, as you say, they go to work, they take L's every day like you, Stephen A. I've never lost. And here you are taking these L's every day. Actually, not true. You got me on one today. I forgot what it was. But when I said
you forgot, you always forget the L's. You forget the L's every day. You got it. You know, got it. I know perpetually has amnesia.
You said that First Take is the only place to go, and I said that's true. That's your first W. So maybe Conor McGregor does have a chance. If Stephen A. can get one off me, maybe Conor McGregor can get one off Floyd. But this is look. You're right. Generally, the general public, I agree with you. They're rooting harder for Conor McGregor to win and Floyd Mayweather to lose. However, I want to address boxing people, Stephen A., because I think there's a reason why you're noticing, if you follow the boxing media, a lot of vitriol about the fact that this fight was made. It's not only because of the lack of respect for the craft of boxing, right? Because people don't understand. It's not two guys just throwing punches. It's a discipline. It deserves respect, just as MMA does. And an MMA fighter in his first professional fight got 0 shot against Floyd. And the fact that, you know, MMA fans and people who don't know a lot about boxing, oh, McGregor's going to win, you're wrong. You know, that's just wrong. Okay, fine. But it goes beyond that. Boxing people have a dilemma. Because you're right, most people want to see Floyd lose, and that includes most boxing people. But here, boxing people do not want to see Floyd lose. That would be disastrous for boxing. If the best practitioner currently, or until very recently because he retired, loses to a novice. That's a terrible look for boxing. And so boxing people, many of whom really don't like Floyd, partly because they've dealt with him and they don't like the way they've been treated, partly because they don't like his public persona, etc., are put in a position where if the fight is made and now it's been made, they have to root for Floyd. And they don't know what to do. That's part of the reason you'll notice out of the boxing media, it's not just that they say, hey, this is a farce, or hey, this is an exhibition, Floyd will win easily, but they're actually angry about it. I think that's part of the reason.
Well, let me tell you this. You saying, and listen, you would know better than me. So I'm not really debating. I'm just telling you what I think about this because you know the boxing community a hell of a lot better than me. I'll give you that, even though I know a lot of guys in boxing. But I will tell you this. When we say that Floyd losing would be a disaster for the sport, here's where I would challenge you, Max, and ask you to respond. If Conor McGregor pulled up the upsets of upsets, it would elevate the profile of the UFC even more. We'll look at those fighters with more intrigue, and we'll entertain the possibility that they could challenge some of the dudes in professional boxing. That widens when you talk about not widening the gap, but widening the opportunities that are available for all of us to see interesting and good fights. It also raises the stakes. And more importantly than that, You got dudes like Dana and others who built this sport by giving us the fights that we wanted to see when we wanted to see them. That would force boxing to do the same. And as a result, the winner is Joe Public. I don't see how it's a loss.
Well, there's all upside for the UFC. Conor McGregor gets wiped out. So what? He's not a boxer. And the UFC's profile is raised. And after that huge deal, $4 billion+ deal, to raise your profile on a global stage is almost always a good thing. Very little downside. For boxing, there's plenty of downside. If the best practitioners, I said, your perspective is right. I think there's a lot of validity to that, and there's a potential upside. But generally, it's downside. Oh, look, boxing. What's boxing? This dude from another sport came right in and took out your best guy. That's a bad look. But the reason for that is, you know what they should do in boxing? There's no they in boxing. That's the number one lesson Dana White understood watching the fight game, growing up as a kid, as a young adult. These are the mistakes boxing makes. It needs to give you the fights when people want them. The best need to fight the best. You don't need a proliferation of belts, weight classes, etc. He understood all these lessons. Why can't boxing affect change to the extent that the UFC can, for example? Because boxing isn't compared to the UFC. Boxing is compared to MMA. The UFC is the strongest brand in MMA. And as a result, can plan for the future, can turn down short-term money for, in service of their big ideas. There is no they in boxing, but there is in MMA. It's the UFC and Dana White. And in that way, Dana White can look out for the best interests of the UFC in a way that no one can really look out for the best interests of boxing. This is almost all upside for the UFC and almost all downside for boxing, potentially.
Well, let me say this. Here's what I would challenge you. I think there's no question that you're more of a boxing expert than I am. But I believe I'm just as much of a fan as you are. Maybe even more so. Maybe even more so because covering the NBA, you go to an NBA game and you thoroughly enjoy it. I'm always working.
Yeah, right.
Even when I'm watching the game, I'm working. I'm watching everything around. I know who the players are, and I'm looking for things. You see what I'm saying? So I can't enjoy it the way that you enjoy basketball because I'm an insider. I don't know if you can enjoy boxing the way that I can because you're an insider on boxing.
Right.
I'm the insider on basketball. So I would say this to you. When I'm watching boxing, you know what intrigues me, Max? When I don't know. When I don't know the outcome, when I'm aware of the reality that anything can happen. And I don't see that happening here with Conor McGregor and Floyd. But if some miracle happened, and I'm not wishing for my man Money Mayweather to lose, please don't get me wrong. But if some kind of miracle happened for Conor McGregor and he pulled off the unthinkable, then to me, even though you could say that's bad for the sport, I'm saying it creates intrigue within the sport of boxing because it ain't predictable. Anything could happen.
But it will be looked at as the moment where, when you say the fight game, you're talking about the UFC. That's a tremendous downside for boxing and a tremendous upside
I
for the
didn't think
UFC.
about that.
Okay.
You're right about that. I didn't think about that. That's a good point.
So Stephen A. saying that fans want to see Floyd lose. Max saying in boxing circles, fans want to see McGregor lose. One country we know unanimously that wants to see Floyd lose, that would be Ireland. We'll leave it there. When we come back, we've been